If you say you're going to do 100 sit-ups, you do 100. You don't do 102. You don't even do a 98. You do 100 because you said so. And it's not just big things. It's little things. It's about your word. And people think that what they give their word to is the point. It's not. It's that it's your word.
Do you want to know the secret to success? Welcome to rulesforsuccess.com, a platform that unites the accomplished and the ambitious. We're here to arm you with the invaluable knowledge of individuals who have paved their own path to success. And now let's get into the show with dynamic host Joseph Varghese.
Hi friends, Joseph Varghese here, rulesforsuccess.com. I'm excited to have somebody I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I've known for 15 plus years now. Her name is Josselyne Herman-Saccio. Joss for short, if you're okay with that, Joss.
Of course.
She's a vision and legacy architect and creator of the Unmessablewith methodology. For nearly 40 years, she's partnered with founders, executives, and creatives to help them design lives rooted in vision, not circumstances. Through her programs like Word Bootcamp and her podcast, she teaches that your word is either explaining your life or creating it. Her mission is to empower people to live their dreams now. I'm excited about this. 13 years ago, my wife and I had the opportunity to do a program with Josselyne. It kind of established a certain context to our relationship, our marriage, around integrity and how we show up. And we've done a lot of work since then. And then we went to have two beautiful kids. It's been quite a journey. I think context is really a useful thing, really setting expectations, showing up, and just loving and having fun and play. All those things really add into a relationship. So Josselyne is also somebody married for a long time, 3 kids, grown up.
32 years, yes.
32 years, yeah. I met your husband, and it's really wonderful how you're able to grow and build together, and you've raised 3 kids together who are now all adults, Well,
but are they ever really adults? I don't know. Yeah, I guess technically, legally.
Yes, yeah. I think most of us, we all have a little child running ourselves at times, right? And it's understanding that, acknowledging that, and making progress, like really showing up for the things that are vital to us. For many of us, so our clients, I lead a community called Success Circles. We launched this 21 years ago, and we challenge our members to make the day better than the last. That's what we do. A lot of our members happen to be high-level entrepreneurs. They have a dream to be a business owner where they can walk away from their business and the business runs automatically. So we often challenge them to play more and take more time off. So they'll certainly appreciate your stance here. I'm excited about sharing your message here, especially the idea of being unmessable with. So let's dig deeper. So do you want to share some of your background, right? Yeah, like maybe your journey.
Sure.
I know you're also, at some point in your career, you're a musical artist and you had some huge success with that. And then you started an agency. You've done some unique work in the world of education and transformational technology and things of that sort. Let's share. What have I missed so far as your bio, your background?
Well, I mean, I had a #1 record in 1912, 1993. But before that, I was a TV producer, and I produced commercials and television shows, feature films. Always wanted to be a singer, so I fulfilled that dream, and then decided I really wanted to empower other people to have their dreams come true. So I started a management production company. So I managed the careers of actors, writers, directors. I did that for a long time. I mean, I still have that company. And at the same time, I was leading transformative workshops, which is where you and I met when I led your program with your wife. But I've been doing that for like 40 years. So I've been coaching people in the transformative space and designing curriculum for 40 years, and managing actors for almost 30 years, and producing television shows and commercials and all that for more than 40 years. So it's, it's been a lifetime of multiple parallel pathways, all really designed to empower people to fulfill their dreams, whether it was in the entertainment business or in business. I work with entrepreneurs mostly that want to minimally double their revenue while working less. So I'm big on mastering freedom, not just productivity, because, in the end, it's like, the quality of your life is not based on how much your revenue was last quarter.
Yes.
It really is the quality of your life, is your relationships and what you spend your time engaging with. So I work with people to accomplish that, which I love to do. So I have a life where I work 15 hours a week. I live half time in Paris, which was a dream of mine for 40
Amazing.
years that I ended up fulfilling on 4 years ago. And, get to spend time with my family and travel and just am writing a book right now, which will be coming out in January. So
Mm.
I was just on the phone with my publisher, getting, titles to the chapters and everything. So that's exciting. And that'll be my Unmessable With methodology.
And is your
So,
book
and
called Be Unmessable With? Is that what it's called?
we haven't come up with the title yet, but it'll have Unmessable within the title for sure. And throughout the years, other things that are kind of milestones are I raised about $90 million for charity, for kids charities, mostly
Wow.
a lot of that was the kids who lost their parents in 9/11,
Mm.
but other children's charities as well. So philanthropy and community building, and I was the president of my community and co-op and all that kind of stuff. So I have a life that I have spent to make an impact, and I am
Yes.
on the next chapter, so to speak.
Right. That word stands out with everything you said, just creating an impact in all that you do, right? All the communities and roles you have. Quite extraordinary. When I first met you, you embraced the brand Unmessable With. You really own that. You kind of share that idea about that. So at first, that can sound like an armor of toughness to a lot of people when you hear that. Right? What do you actually mean by that? What's the context of that
Yeah,
for
it
you?
definitely is not being tough. And it's not about not experiencing your feelings or anything. It is about being able to stay in your vision and stay in the space of creation rather than getting hooked into the space of survival and reaction, which I find most people, especially effective people, are really good reactors. They
Yeah.
have to be because they have to put out fires and handle things with their teams and their staff and their families or whatever, but that's a different space of your nervous system and it's a different world than the world of creation and word and vision, and that is like a looking up and out kind of world, whereas the other is like looking down and in and getting stuff done and getting through this and dealing with that. And
Yeah.
most people end up in that other world of getting stuff done by default,
Yeah.
and they lose
Being
that
reactive.
sense of magic. Most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs started with the sense of magic. Like when they started creating their business or their relationship, it's all kind of magic. But then it turns into a thing to manage, and you got to
Mm.
make sure you pay the staff and make the revenue goals, and it just shifts into a different game. So my work, a lot of it is about staying out of that world of reaction and staying grounded and unmessable with in the space of vision and word and creation.
Wow. Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So when life hits hard, so entrepreneurs juggling multiple roles, businesses, projects,
Sure.
family, right? You get three kids, they got two. Um, what's the step-by-step reset when someone gets bad news or loses a deal, feels overwhelmed in those moments? What's the step-by-step reset in your context of being investable with? What would you
Well,
say?
first you have to catch which
Mm,
world you're in. So are you in the world of reaction or are you in the world of creation? And if
mm,
you're the first telltale sign is bad news, because there's no such thing as bad news. There's just whatever the news is.
yeah,
And then bad would be from that world of reaction. Even good, by the way, is from the world of reaction. So
yeah,
it's not just the bad stuff. It's also any kind of automatic tag on it, right, is a
yeah,
reaction.
yeah,
So if you can identify I have people come up with what are the red flags that they're in that world, both physically and linguistically, because you have physical tells that you're in the world of reaction. Could be a tight chest, maybe it's a flush face or, fidgety fingers. But then you also have linguistic red flags that tell you you're in that world, like things that you say out loud or in your head that are like, "Ugh, give me a break." That would be a telltale sign that you're in the world of reaction. Or what is wrong with these people? That would be a
yeah,
telltale sign. Or, oh, good, this is going well. This is handled. This is handled is a tell sign that you're in the world of reaction. So the more you can identify the red flags, then you can do what I call hack those
yeah.
red flags and interrupt the brain pattern that brings
Mm,
you back to reality, where there is no lens, there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong, there's just what is.
mm,
And then shift over to the world of creation. And I
yeah,
have people pre create a vision or a context
mm,
for their
Mm.
life that empowers them, whether it's freedom or flow or connection or whatever they want to create. So they create a context, not a goal, but a
Yeah.
context, which
Yeah.
in my work is called vision, that
Yeah.
colors their next move. So if you can see the red flag that you're in the world of reaction, you hack it, you get to nothing. Then you pivot back over to what you're creating and you take an action that would express or fulfill your vision at that given moment. I have
I love
all of this on my website. It's a free instant reset guide. So you can have like cliff notes on beunmessablewith.com, go to the freebies page, and there's an instant reset guide that takes you through those
I
steps.
love I love that. Love the ease of that. It's incredible. We mentioned the word
Yeah, it
before,
just takes
so
practice. It's a muscle. It's easy, but it's simple, but not easy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically catching when we're on it, or we're being victims or reactive. Just noticing that and getting to a place of like relaxation, presence, right, and handling that. Um, so you mentioned the word before. So when I got the nature of word, and like when I first learned about integrity some 20 years ago, there was a certain like meaning to it that was shared with me in this organization, and that meaning became like ran my life, the context of my life. It was basically honoring my word, and then they added something to it. It's also when I first learned this years ago, it's also living into an empowering context. And to me, when I learned that, it made a big difference to me, because how I interpreted that at the time was about every day. It was up to me to uh, make it a good day, and to, if I woke up on the wrong side or upset or whatnot, to be in integrity meant to also um, shift things so things got better. And a lot of the ventures projects I built kind of embraced some of those ideas. Really changed my life. What does, when you talk about word, right? What is your word, is either explaining your life or creating? What does that mean to you? You talk about creating, but what does the word mean when someone gives their word to something, and how does that relate to the work you do?
Well, language is a very powerful tool, and most people use it in a very limited way. So, if you look at languages, there's three different kinds of language. One is the language of description, which is mostly where people hang out. They describe their thoughts, their feelings. They describe you or themselves. I'm not a morning person. That person's annoying. This quarter has been good. I mean, whatever. It's all description of something out there, right? That kind of language, while it's useful, I mean, you need it to function in the world, it's limited in its power, because basically you either are being correct or incorrect in your description. That's about as much power as you get, is to be right, right? So then there's two other uses of language, which most people do not spend a lot of time in. One is the language of creation, and that requires a blank canvas. So you're creating from nothing, not from something. Most people, when they think about creation, they think about fixing or changing something or making it better. Like, I'll take my revenue and I'll make it, double this year. It's like, okay, well, that's not really a creation. It's an extrapolation of the past, and you're going to do an improvement on
Yeah,
what you did last year. So
yeah,
it requires a thing to then compare itself to. Creation really comes from nothing.
yeah,
So when you use language or you use your word to create from nothing, it's like an artist using their word as a paintbrush
painting a
to
canvas.
create, yeah,
Yeah,
what they're out to. And I use the term, use your word as your wand, like a magic wand. That's what I do in my word bootcamp program, to develop people's muscle with their word. And then there's a third use of language, which is really untapped, which is the language of evocation.
mm,
So using language to evoke an experience. And a lot of times that's a missed opportunity. So when people say, like if you were coaching somebody and you said, well, what are your goals? They're going to describe something for the most part. They're not really creating. So when you're asking what are your goals, it's asking for a description,
yeah,
or what do you think about that? It's asking for a description of your thoughts,
mm,
right? Or how do you
mm,
feel?
mm,
That's asking for a description. I'm going to check in my body or wherever I go
yeah,
to check my feelings, and I'll describe what I can see, right?
yeah,
But a question like, if you could have anything, what would you create? That's an evocation kind of question. It
Hmm.
presences something.
Hmm.
It evokes an experience that
Yeah.
wasn't there the moment prior. Or from the background that you and I have, enrollment is the kind of
Yeah.
conversation that evokes an experience right now, not someday, not later, not like a goal is going to get realized in 3 years. It's a right now phenomenon.
I guess it kind of it stirs something inside of us, right? As we're kind of creatively putting that idea together, and we often challenge our clients to take a day off or take more time off, and to embrace more awe and wonder and curiosity. Because as they do that, they're able to kind of fuel that vision for themselves, put more like reality, really see it. And a lot of what we do in Success Circles Community I Lead is about recalibrating on a daily basis, being able to speak things out loud, speak out our why each day. So that's what I hear when I hear you say the word evoke. It's like fueling that vision, like tapping into it, stepping into. Would you say that's kind of accurate a little bit?
It's not necessarily, but it's not. It's included in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not what it's about, but it definitely is included in the experience of evocation. But evocation is like you could evoke an experience that is not connected to your vision necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You could ask somebody, a question. Now what? I mean, that has them look. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is a question from the language of evocation has somebody looking, not thinking. Most
Mm-hmm.
questions have people have to think, so they go this way
Mm-hmm.
versus this way.
Yeah.
So it's a spatial phenomenon. They're different
Yeah.
spaces. But, creation's a very powerful use of language too.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a thing I do with people. It's called the promise game, where you make a promise for the day. So if you're saying reset each day, make a promise for the day, and that becomes your lens for the day, and it really shapes your day and your compass for the day. It's like
Yes.
if your promise is to take bold action today, then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you're looking for opportunities to be bold, as opposed to, maybe your
Yes.
promise would be to be safe today. Then you're looking for opportunities to be safe.
I love
So,
it.
but you don't need a promise to be safe. Most people, that's just
Yeah.
a default way of
And,
being.
and I love the idea of playing games. Like we play games a lot in our process, our community. Every day is a game, and it's like you're setting your focus, or your particular system. It's another way of looking at it in a way where you're doing something unique, finding an opportunity to be bold, be unreasonable, create a bigger promise to to grow something, right? Like whatever that is, it's training ourselves that way and building a muscle. And I heard you mention that word before too. It's like a lot of this
Yeah.
is building a muscle each day, which is very vital for entrepreneurs because for most entrepreneurs, it's about scaling their business, growing their business, advancing things, being a better leader. That's there, and potentially either selling their business or finding another way of creating more impact with other ventures that they're up to at the same time. Once that first business is has been scaled, and
Yeah.
we as humans we get in our own way. We want to have control, like we get in our own way, and what you're talking about here is of like really honing into our word. That's what creates reality, right? And the moment we lose that, we lose the ability to inspire, to create, to lead effectively, right?
Well, it also, I think most, especially anybody who's in your circles, is they're going to be pretty good at keeping their promises to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are pretty good at that if they're high performers, but where they break down is their promises to themselves.
Yeah.
So that's where most people sell out and their word is weak. And a
Yeah.
lot of the work that I do impacts that, because if you say X and do Y, enough times, you no longer trust yourself. So then when you say, I'm going to work one day less a week,
Yeah.
you can't trust yourself to keep that promise. And you're going to end up scooching in meetings there that, that need to be
Yeah.
rescheduled or whatever, because your word is kind of cheap for you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you tell any high performer, oh, you're weak with your word, they're going to argue with you because they'll
Yeah.
have every evidence about how they'll break their back to get to the client meeting or to deliver a deadline or whatever, but they don't count those times they skipped the gym or didn't
Mm-hmm.
drink the 10 glasses of water or whatever their promises were to themselves. That's why Word Boot Camp, I think, is so good, because it's 30 days of a different promise every day and delving
Mm-hmm.
into the world of language of evocation and creation and description, and really getting facile with having your word be law in the universe, rather than
Yes.
negotiable.
Yes. I get that. It's really great building a muscle 30 days and trying out different things. and probably even doing that community too. There's an opportunity, I think, in community to, there's an emotional element of life, right? And I had somebody on my podcast last week for a product we use, FocusMate, the founder of that company. And he talked about, as humans, when we connect, there's an element of emotional regulation that's there. Those persons like me. But especially if they're playing at a bigger game. Like in the community I lead, we play off this idea that we rise to the quality of expectations of our peer group. So there's this expectation that we all have that we're going to rise each day, be better, and really own the vision we have. And that's useful. That expectation is very useful. But also being able to reconnect with another human being who's on that journey, who has ups and downs and challenges. We just found an opportunity to regulate those emotions, and emotions are valid, are very valuable. How do feelings and emotions connect in your world? Because I'm sure there are breakdowns that happen, the challenges that happen. People go through sicknesses and deaths, and someone we know who passed away a couple of years ago. You and we talked about that earlier. How does that play into this world of like really owning our word? Like when those things come up, those challenges come up that way.
Well, having a feeling is not a problem if you feel it, but if you get in bed with it and start telling yourself a whole story about it, then you suffer.
Yes.
So feelings, I find they're like waves. If you ride them, then they settle themselves. But when people use their feelings as a justification and a reason to not honor their word, then they're weakening that word muscle. So you can still be your word and have feelings. I mean, my mother passed away in November, and it was in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m, and we were all there and everything. And the next morning, I had a group coaching call. I could have canceled it, but I didn't. Like that's not what she would want me to like. What? Not spend that hour on the phone with people? Like that's ridiculous. So I got on the phone, and they were all like, "Oh my God, how you?" I'm like, "Well, I can be sad and coach you. It's not a problem. It's like you can feel however you feel and still take it. You can still go to the gym, and you can still have the meeting, and you can still make dinner, and you can still have a word in the matter."
Yes. Yeah. That's incredible. It's incredible that your process being messable with is really owning your word despite circumstances.
Well, when your word's unmessable with, you are unmessable with ultimately. It isn't about like being tough. It's about your word being law. Like you say it, it happens. And even if you're not the one to do it, which entrepreneurs are not good at because they think they have to do everything. But if you have a strong team around you, you're not even required. So if you want to scale and sell and all that stuff, you better start building systems and teams that have a powerful word in the matter too, which is a lot of the design work to do.
Yes. Yes. Got it. Overwhelm is optional. Got it. Absolutely. So what does it mean to focus on vision and not the vehicle? I know that's a part of the work you have.
And I talked a lot about that with AJ, our mutual friend who passed away. Our whole episode on my podcast was all about that. So people get fixated on the vehicle, like this kind of business or this deal or whatever. But the vision is contextual. So if your vision is freedom, let's just say, then if you stay focused on what you're creating vision wise, then you can have multiple vehicles and you're not attached to anything. So for entrepreneurs, they get attached to their business because they identify with the vehicle. Like, oh, I'm this entrepreneur in this kind of business and blah, blah. So then if it starts to not work, they have like self-trust issues, self-worth issues, rather than, no, my vision is freedom and fulfillment. So now what am I going to do? I could be this vehicle, it might be a different vehicle. I can have parallel pathways. I don't have to be stuck with anything. So it's really about the context, not the content.
Right, exactly. Or whether maybe it's impact. So maybe the business follows one level of impact, and there are other ways as well also with that too. And if there's a breakdown in the business, let's say with AI, right, and the business gets disrupted, let's say, that whole idea of being attached versus committed, right? You're still committed to the vision,
the impact.
Right? There are other means to fulfill in that too, beyond just that business that might have got impacted because of the economy or AI or whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. So you're able to invent yourself, and because you're not identified as something.
Or reinvent, right?
And same thing with relationships. because some people identify as that marriage, and then if the marriage breaks up, they're like
Yeah.
lost, they don't know who they are. So it's the same thing. It's like, that's a vehicle, that relationship. I'm
Mm.
sure you've had clients that are no longer your clients, and it's like, you don't, if you make that mean something about yourself
Yeah.
or about your business, then you're kind of, you know, a a headless, no, not a headless horseman, a headingless sailor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to hold on to the vision, whatever the vision you have, whether for your business. And for me, it's generational impact. So for me, it's GI, right? And I call that GI Joseph. And I have different means, mechanisms to do that. And if one falters, there's others. And
Yeah.
that's what gives me fulfillment each day. And for each of us, it's really honing into that why. Um, we ask our members when they get in a huddle on a buddy call to kind of share their why and to feel into it, to really own it. And then there's an opportunity as we own it to recalibrate to that on a daily basis, to kind of reshift or pivot, course correct, or different ways of talking about that. Yeah, I'm curious. What is human resourcing versus human resources? That's also a term I've seen in your work. How do
Well,
you describe
yeah,
it?
as a company owner or an entrepreneur, then, or a founder, you have human beings that
Mm.
are resources, and that's why you have a human resources department or whatever. But
Yes.
what most people don't tend to is their team or their employees' vision,
Mm.
which is what resources them. So
Mm.
human resourcing is to
Mm.
have people be connected to their vision. The biggest source of turnover and burnout and overwhelm is not being connected to your vision. So
Mm.
if you look at how you function with your team, are you designing into your meetings
Mm.
opportunities for people to represence their vision or to look
Yes.
newly at what the context is that they're creating, so
Yes.
that they're not just there fulfilling a role in your chess
Yeah.
game,
Yes.
but they actually see their participation in your
Yeah.
company's game as a fulfillment of their own personal vision. And if they
Yeah.
don't, then you're going to end up with just
A worker bee
burnt
who's
out, yeah, and
yeah.
burnt out people that can't
Yeah.
wait to get the heck out of there.
Amazing. And leadership is just that, really seeing a vision for people, seeing them for their best selves, who they are, and having what they do fulfill into potentially what you're creating as jointly as a team, as a
Yeah,
community. Yeah,
yeah,
incredible. So I love that. I love the frame of how you use languages, and it's so useful when you're able to like language things in a way where kind of build that container, and um, it's just so very useful to be able to do that. Right?
yeah. I love
That
coming up with things like that, like little, like I
uh,
was on a call earlier and I was like, well, your lens is your lid. I was like, okay, that should be a chapter in the book. It's like, your lens is your
should,
lid. Whatever,
should
you see
trademark
things
that.
through. That's it. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
little marketing phrases like that.
Yeah.
It's my
They have those.
specialty.
They have. I've seen somebody recently. They had this like this tennis hat, and it's like a cap at the top is clear. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I kind of see up. It's like a red lens, and I haven't seen that in a while since like the 1980s. But it kind of goes the whole lens metaphor of things, wearing the
Yeah.
red glasses and having that perspective of life. Jocelyn, you've worked with creatives, performers, entrepreneurs, and executives. Like, what's a common thread amongst them all? What stays the same, whether we're coaching an actor, a founder, a CEO, an artist? What's the common thing amongst that?
Well, I think, in terms of like the top things that mess with people, it's not brain science. I mean, well, it is brain science, but
Mm.
it's not complicated. It's time and money
Mm.
and self-worth. So imposter syndrome
Yeah.
impacts a lot of people, not having enough time, not having enough money, not enough something, basically,
Mm.
fill in the blank, not good enough, not smart enough, not accomplished enough, not perfect enough, not this
Mm.
enough. So those are pretty common human themes. I think
Yes.
that's, what I've discovered in the 40 years of working with so many
Mm.
hundreds of thousands of people is,
Mm.
as human beings, we share that interpretation about ourselves that
Yes.
something's not good enough.
Mm.
And so we spend a lot of our lives trying to compensate for that, which is all from the world of reaction and keeps us in that world of kind of surviving and proving
Mm.
and lack of fulfillment. Because
Mm.
I've worked with people that have all the stuff, they have the multiple $1 million
Yeah.
businesses and they have a yacht or they have a jet, but they still aren't fulfilled.
Mm.
So whatever that's about, that's what I'm interested in impacting, because that's not like a prison sentence. You don't have to not be fulfilled if you're successful. You could
Mm.
actually have it all, but
Yeah.
it's a design issue. And most people aren't designing, they're just dealing with.
So what do you feel causes fulfillment? So somebody who is playing at that level, they seem to have it
Yes.
all externally, right? And I know we're all comparing ourselves in the nature of AI. So 40 years of coaching you've been doing, and now I'm sure with tech, social media, there's even a lot more of that. So how does somebody go about um, tapping into the deepest fulfillment and having it be a natural thing when they wake up that way? Is it a matter
Yeah.
of rebuilding trust in themselves through their word?
That's part of it, but fulfillment is through what you're creating. So if you create something from nothing, not from
Mm.
fixing or proving or improving,
Yeah.
but from nothing, and then you fulfill on that thing you created, that's fulfillment. Most
Yes.
people look for fulfillment as a
Mm.
feeling
Mm.
that they're gonna, or a mood or something. And that's a
Mm.
sucker's game, because you have no say over your moods and your feelings.
Mm.
They just happen to you.
Mm.
You could have all the results in the world and feel insecure, or you could have no results and feel happy. I mean, it's your
Mm.
feelings are a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But when you create something, let's say you
Mm.
create the like connection as a
Mm.
space, and then you take actions to fulfill on what you created, that is actually what fulfillment is in
Mm.
reality. Not
Mm.
in your body, not in your head, not in your heart, but in reality, that's fulfillment. So you
Mm.
can take fulfillment out of the space of feelings and put it into the realm of results
Yeah.
and creation. So creation, fulfillment. And if you create and then don't fulfill, that's an opportunity to see what was missing or
Yeah.
what was in the way. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like all the work I do is we create what we're going to create, and then if we don't fulfill on it, we debrief it from what were the
Yeah.
actions or inactions that resulted in what we got instead of what we said.
I think of the idea of maybe creating a vision map, like, or a treasure map or vision board, and kind of seeing it fulfilled, like seeing it come into fruition, especially with the impact that people are out to serve and so forth, and seeing it, and then like appreciating it, the awe of what's been created, and then going to what's next, right? That's kind of what I hear with how you're
Yeah, that would
like
be
speaking.
like with goals, because most vision boards are really about goals. Like you have the house or you have the car or whatever, the
Yeah.
number of people that you want to impact. So you can do a goal board, and I recommend people have goals, but
Mm.
that's different than vision. Vision is more the lens
Mm.
that you're viewing your actions and results through.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's a linguistic conversation rather than a specific measurable result conversation,
Yeah.
which specific measurable results are critical. It's like the scoreboard, but the
Yeah.
game is made up in language. So when Naismith made up basketball, he said it's more important to put the ball through the hoop. There was no hoop. There was nothing. There was just his
Yeah.
word called ball through hoop is more important than not. It's not even true that it's more important. It's just he said that. And now all of a sudden there's a whole game, and there's rules, and there's a scoreboard, and the scoreboard is like the results.
Amazing. I love that. Like really,
Yeah.
really, really, really clear, painting through your words and painting with your word, right? And so how does somebody rebuild trust with themselves? So if they're breaking a promise themselves, like what's the first move toward rebuilding that trust, inner trust with themselves, not with another
Yeah.
person externally, but with themselves?
It's saying X and doing X daily.
Mm.
So, I mean, I have this little promise game. It's also free. It's
Mm.
called thepromisegame.com, but you can get it on my website too. It's 5 days, five
Mm.
promises. So each day you keep a different promise, and you spend the day looking through the lens of that promise, and you
Mm.
start to build back the muscle of your word.
Mm.
So you keep it no matter what. You don't, have your reasons, your whatever. And if you do have reasons that stop you, then you'll be able to see what messed with you. So that's useful too, to be able to see what gets in the way of your
Mm.
word, so you can start to dismantle it and build against it. But the
Mm.
the main thing is just treating your word like it is literally law in the universe. So if you say you're going to do 100 sit-ups, you do 100. You don't do 102. You don't even do a 98. You do 100 because you said
Mm.
so.
Mm.
Not, oh, well, I feel like I could do more. Okay, but you said 100. So let's just do what you said for like 30 days and see what happens, which is word boot camp,
Yeah.
because that builds the trust back. And it's not just big things, it's little things. If you say you're going to take the garbage out
Mm.
at 7, do it at 7. Don't do it at 7:15. It's
Hmm.
just the garbage. Yeah, it's not about the garbage. It's about your word. And people think that what they give their word to is the point. It's
Yeah.
not. It's that it's
Yeah.
your word. So
Yeah.
if you say you're going to eat at 1, eat at 1. Don't push it off because I'm not hungry. I'm going to, because then you're going to negotiate with your word, and your word no
Yeah.
longer has the
Yeah.
power or the weight. Your
Mm.
reasons do. Your
Yeah.
moods do. Your stomach does.
So what I hear you saying is that Unmessable is also about better systems, better calendars, cleaner execution, like putting things into the schedule or into
Yeah.
existence or in a way where it's viewable and you can kind of follow through on it. Is that right?
Well, your calendar is like your canvas. I mean, I have a whole calendar workshop. I think it's called Unmessable with Time, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about designing your life, because where
Yeah.
is your life but in your calendar? That's where it is. So I put everything in my calendar. I put eating,
Mm.
showering, you know, call the dentist, put up the blacks for the windows for my
Yeah.
podcast. I mean, everything is in my calendar. So it's out of my head. I don't want stuff in my head.
Yeah.
I want stuff out here.
Insight in mind in action. So like having it in front of you is when you're working on it is really useful, right? And getting everything else out of the way. Um, we often challenge our members to minimize friction, right? Like getting all the things that shouldn't be there out of the way. So they're focusing on the thing in hand. Sometimes progress is a matter of also is releasing things, letting go of things that no
Yes.
longer serve.
Yeah, I have people do in some of my advanced programs do a time audit where they
Hmm.
monitor for 2 weeks what they're doing every 15 minutes. So they
Hmm.
take the action they take, the result they produce, whether it gives them energy,
Hmm.
sucks their energy, whether it produces revenue, doesn't produce revenue, and there's a whole chart. And by the
Hmm.
end of the 2 weeks, you can see the patterns of the things you're doing that aren't giving you energy and aren't even generating revenue, and you're still doing them. Those things need to go.
Hmm. Yeah. It's amazing. I think it's valuable when we build a life, a schedule, a day where we're energized by those activities. I'm sure for you, coaching people, teaching, educating, seeing people get those ahas energizes you. So if you can build a life, systems to kind of align with that, that's a great life to live.
Yeah, to design your life around your unique genius and what
Yes.
fulfills you.
So what does legacy mean to you right now? Like not someday, but right now, living into today. Like what does that mean to you?
Well, right now, the legacy I'm building and fulfilling on is really being unmessable with. That's what my commitment is that
Mm.
people have the tools to be that, and that they
Mm.
can design and live the life of their dreams, not someday, not next year, but right now. They're actually living and fulfilling and designing and fulfilling, and
Mm.
that they have access to that, which is why I wrote the book
Mm.
again, which is going to come out in the beginning of next year. But it's
Mm.
because not everybody can afford to work with me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I understand that. I try and have as much free stuff as possible, my podcast, my newsletter,
Of
my blah,
course.
blah, blah, all the stuff, right? But the book will be a really great way for people to begin to practice
Mm.
the exercises that build those muscles of what I'm talking about when it talks about, the art of being unmessable with. It really
Yeah.
is doable for anybody. There's no one that doesn't have access to language. Even if you can't speak, you have
Mm.
language in some other way. So you have access as a human being. Everybody has access to language
Mm.
in some way, shape, or form, and that is really the key tool.
Amazing. So beyond your book coming out next year, your website beunmessablewith.com, what's one promise our listeners should make and keep this week?
Well, I would do a daily promise. So, you
Mm.
could do a theme for the week if you want, but I would take, make any promise you want that'll empower you. If it's with your relationships, I
Mm.
promise to listen to my partner with compassion. If
Mm.
it's in your business, I promise to take a courageous action every day,
Mm.
or I promise to take a bold, we were talking about being bold before we started recording,
Yes.
a bold, courageous action every day. Or, if it's about contribution, I promise to make a difference with 3 people every day, and you just start playing a game. It's a game. That's why I call it the promise game, because
Mm.
it's a game. You're just creating a game. It's not like, it doesn't have to be earth shattering. I promise to buy a stranger a cup of coffee. You'll see how your day shifts
Yeah.
when you
And
take actions like that.
games are meant to be fun. So it's our tagline for the podcast and what we do is dare to play a bigger game. That's the idea that each day there's an opportunity to declare a
Yeah.
game, play it bigger, and share if you choose to, and just notice what happens. Like we expand, that invisible ceiling above us just disappears, right? For most of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
Curious, what are some rituals, habits you personally embrace each day to either create your day or end your day? I'm a big fan of years ago. I started meditating. I did all these things, and I still carry some of those things. Some things are more natural in myself, where I do less of those things the way I used to. What are some things for you that you embrace to keep your day
Well, at the end
moving?
of the day, I complete the day. So I look at my calendar. I look if there's anything that's a lie on my calendar, like something I said I was going to do that I didn't, I move it. So I'm
Hmm.
creating the next week of my week at all every day. I'm
Hmm.
doing that. And I set an intention for the day in the beginning of the day. So I set a theme,
Hmm.
like maybe today is fun, today is courage, today is compassion, today is patience, whatever. I just make
Hmm.
something up. It's not significant what it is, just
Yeah.
sets my heading, and then I live the day through that. Um, but it's a if you don't complete your day and you carry your day into your next day, it's that's where also overwhelm and burnout sources from. So I
Yes.
look at the end of the day, it's like, okay, so if there's anything I didn't do that I said I was going to do, what was the source of that? What did I do instead? What was I doing instead of that at that moment? What displaced my word, so that I can put in a system or a structure to have myself be able to keep my word the next time.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
no real make wrong. It's just really being powerfully related to what I say I'm going to do and what I did, so that I can be the source of my life.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I completely aligned with that. Getting closure is a very valuable thing. Closing the day, the week, the month, the quarter.
Order, the
Um,
year, the whole thing.
there's this idea that each moment we invest planning, reflecting, closing pays us back 1,000% in time, energy, clarity going forward. And that's often the
Yeah.
biggest gift we can give ourselves, be able to invest a little time to do that. Excellent. Any final words you want to offer our audience? Any other final rule for success you'd offer our audience beyond what you've already, outside of what you've already shared so far?
I mean, I don't know if it's outside of it, but I would say if you like the idea
Hmm.
of being unmessable with,
Hmm.
then dip your toe in on my freebies page. There's tons of stuff up there that you can just, begin to get a taste of what it is, or listen to my podcast, follow me on Instagram, Be Unmessable With. The
Hmm.
podcast is called Be Unmessable With. So you can hear solo episodes, guest episodes.
Hmm.
It's all inside of this conversation.
Love it.
So it's a way for you to just kind of swim in the
Hmm.
world of being unmessable with.
Okay, I lied. So one final question. So what's the secret to a relationship that lasts 30 plus years, raising three kids? We're two kids, right? I'm in my
Uh-huh.
50s now. We started a little later in life. There's a lot of joy in what we do. And we have amazing systems. My wife is somebody with extraordinary work. She's done some unique things. What's the secret for you that's
Well, we
allowed you
have
to
a whole
create that?
series of tips on my Instagram channel right now that we just started doing on tips on how to have a great
I saw
relationship
some of
through
that.
the decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one tip is have promises.
Yeah.
Like I promise to be kind to my husband, especially at night when he's snoring and I have to wake him up like 14 times to turn
Hmm.
over on his side. I could so easily just be like, "Ugh," but I just go, sweetheart, can you please turn over? So that promise
Yeah.
comes in handy for him in the middle of the
Hmm.
night for sure. We have promises to kiss each other goodbye before we leave, never go to bed angry, know each other's dreams,
Hmm.
and be a support, not an obstacle
Hmm.
to your partner fulfilling on what they really want. So
Hmm.
we have a ton of those. There's so many. There's not one rule, but
Hmm.
we've only had 5 fights in 32 years. So whatever
That's
we're
amazing.
doing seems to be working. So
Yeah, I align with that too. We're completely
yeah,
aligned with that. We rarely fought, and our kids see us fight, and they're like, but they see us fight, and it's like a loving fight. It's like just having a conversation, and they're modeling that. And I imagine your three kids have modeled. They're all adults now, right? In their late 20s, 30s. They've modeled you and your husband over the years. Um, what's what's one lesson to a parent, who's raising kids that would be useful for that parent?
well, my kids all grew up inside of transformation and they all did transformative work since they were 6 years old. So they've
Mm,
grown up in the language of transformation.
mm,
Lucky for me and lucky for them. But the biggest thing that I found, and I've dealt with lots of stuff with my kids, um, is to just have kids have a safe space, because they're going to by default want to hide things from you, want to, maybe not tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So if you can create a safe space for them to communicate anything, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. I mean,
Yes.
my youngest, he came out to me at 10 years old, told me he was gay, which I was like, okay, fine. And then at 14, decided to transition. So now she's trans, and, it was never an issue. So it's like, don't have things be an issue.
Mm.
Things are not actually an issue unless
Yeah.
you make them an issue.
Right.
Just
Right.
be the one that they can come to, no matter what, and look with them at what they need, and then see if you can support them in fulfilling what they want. But I also don't let my kids off the hook. I mean, when my daughter failed her classes or whatever, and I was like, well, what's the source of you failing that class? She goes, well, I missed the final. I said, well, what's the source of you missing the final? She said, well, I thought it was on Wednesday, but then when I emailed my teacher to see what time it was, they said it was on Monday, and I had missed it. And I said, well, what's the source of it not being on your calendar? She said, what calendar? I said, okay, bing, bing, bing. That's the source. We're getting you a calendar, so it's like, I want my kids to have power in their life
Exactly.
to fulfill on what matters to them. So don't let them off the hook, but be a safe space.
Yeah. It's really, really holding to a high standard, of course, right? Being a friend at the same time. So there's that open channel of communication that goes on. That's really, it's really, really, and really valuable. Those two things. And those two things can be a little challenging at sometimes, like holding the person to a high standard of seeing their potential. And
well, it's not
also,
even a high standard. It's more like hold them to what they want, because your standard is not necessarily their standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wanted to pass that class. It was a breakdown for her. I actually don't even care. I didn't even go to college. I don't even care. I'm like, whatever, go to college, don't go to college. You want to go to college? Great. So she wants to go, she wants to pass. She didn't. It was a breakdown of what she wanted. So speak to them from their commitment, not what you want for them. That's a big thing.
It's really beautiful. It applies to our clients too, as well as a buddy up. Just a reminder to hear people for their commitment, for their why, and listen to them for that, and call them on it if they fall short of what they said. What they
said. Yeah, exactly. You got to speak to people from their commitment, not what you want for them.
Incredible. Well, I'm grateful for this conversation. Thank you, Josselyne.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
For our clients, rulesforsuccess.com. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure you like us across different channels. If you're in Spotify, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Amazon, just like us, and check out more Josselyne at Unmessablewith.com, and check out her book coming out in 2027. I'm excited about that.
Me too. All right. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Josselyne.
That's it for today's episode of rulesforsuccess.com podcast. Join us next week for another inspiring conversation with a successful entrepreneur. Until then, remember to be bold, be courageous, and go after your dreams.